Welcome in once again to the Alabama Football Report, and much to the delight, or at least relief, of producer Chris, DaShawn Jones, the Wake Forest corner, has officially committed to the Alabama Crimson Tide, giving Alabama the much-needed veteran cornerback depth they were desperately searching for, if we're being honest, in the spring transfer portal. If you are happy that DaShawn Jones has committed to Alabama, then like today's show, even though he's going to be the next, Terrion Arnold, Kool-Aid McKinstry, whatever, at least it is a good player being added to the roster. So you should like today's video right now. The depth chart now sits as such for the Crimson Tide in the cornerback room. We'll focus on corners here, safety. We'll just have plenty of discussions about there. Producer Chris and I were talking pre-show, and we're in agreement. I think the 6 guys on this roster at corner on those depth charts could all very well play key roles. Damani Jackson, Jaleel Hurley, Jalen Mbakwe, Zay Brown, Zay Mincy. Xavier Brown, Zay Mincy. They've got a chance to play because I think it is an open competition. 2 Power 5 transfers, or Power 4, whatever the hell we're calling it now. If it was a Power 5 last year, so I'll count it. And Jackson and Jones, who have more experience. Bunch of young, talented guys in Hurley, Mbakwe, Brown, and Mincy. And, we'll mention Drake Kirkpatrick Jr., who I'm curious where he ends up playing. I think he's going to be a clear redshirt guy in year one. You didn't have experience in this secondary. Look at the career snap counts. You've got all those players. You had 10 different guys leaving the portal, plus some NFL players. Thank God Malachi Moore came back. Otherwise, oh boy. DaShawn Jones is your most experienced corner. And we were basically, in fact, we were at the point, he had more snaps than your entire cornerback room combined. Malachi Moore's playing safety. Keon Sabb, Cameron Howard gives you safety depth. Devonta Smith is the Husky player, so we'll count him in the cornerback conversation from that perspective. Bray Hubbard played 4 snaps against Chattanooga, so what's the point? That's not, those aren't real snaps. That's yay, Always have that memory, whatever. But I think he could play a bigger role this upcoming season because there's so much uncertainty. Frankly, outside of Malachi Moore, everything is projection, hope, optimism, upside, competition as well, which is certainly something to consider. So Jones comes in with a lot of experience. And, he wasn't the greatest corner last year for Wake Forest, but if it's, I think, best case is actually probably one of those young guys plays so well, he beats out Jones for a starting spot, whether that's week 1 or week 7, whatever. And the worst case is he gives you a starting caliber corner on the outside when you didn't know you had any of those players. So with that in mind, grade the transfer of DaShawn Jones. A, B, C, D, or F. Go ahead and sound off for me in the comments section of today's show. A, B, C, D, or F at that pinned comment. There are still some other transfers out there to watch for the Crimson Tide. Geno VanDeMark, who I'll give producer Chris credit. You were on that immediately. You saw us and you go, this guy's going to be a Tide. Or a member of the Tide. We'll see if that happens in a little bit. King Mack from Penn State. Khalil Jacobs from South Alabama. We spent a lot of time on those guys, so we won't go too far in depth today. But I do want to mention what Kalen DeBoer said to media about the transfer portal. I think it's been really good. I feel like we will improve our roster when it's all said and done. There wasn't a lot of spots left for us to be able to bring some players in, so we had to be real choosy. As guys have entered, we've continued to tweak and adjust our plan. But I think we're right where we want to be and getting close to finalizing these last couple of spots on the team. That's why all these teams are hiring GMs now, because you kind of need that. Looking at you, Clemson. Here's the entire transfer portal class overall. Some Saban, some after Saban. Damani Jackson, we assume is cornerback 1, but we're also banking on some big growth there, by the way. LT Overton, the defensive lineman, who I think is a good fit for even what this new staff is doing. Caden Proctor was in, then he was out, then he was back in, which is kind of hilarious. Niquel Bertrand was the interesting one where no one really reported it for days. It wasn't a Bama offer, then in high school, and then a chance to go there. Kind of crazy. Austin Mack, Parker Brailsford, Jeremy Bernard, Josh Suevas, all come over from Washington, along with Kalen DeBoer. Keon Sabb, who's got ties to Courtney Morgan, comes in from Michigan. Kicker Graham Nicholson will start for this team, and then the two recent DBs, Cam Howard and DaShawn Jones. It's 12 players. There was no mass Alabama exodus in the portal. There was one in the defensive back room, which I get, but it's not like every single good player left because Saban retired. We do have an update for you guys, by the way, on Jalen Hale and where things sit on that front. Kalen DeBoer giving the update on Wednesday. Here's what he said. This season will certainly be a tough one, but I also don't want to say that he will be out the entire year. Depends on how long the season goes. He's done an amazing job, and the process and the recovery for him has been sped up just even since the injury happened back in the spring. He's got an amazing mindset about him, and because of that, that's why he's having that progress at such a fast pace. So, the optimism's great, etc. I will tell you a story of why I don't think Jalen Hale will play this year. And it goes back to my time covering the Miami of Ohio football team back when I was in college, and it's a small school, and there were like 3 reporters, including me as a sophomore, right? And I'd be out there at practice, and they had this defensive lineman who ended up playing briefly in the NFL, by the way. It was kind of the UDFA thing, but he was a good football player. It was Austin Brown. And he had a back injury, suffered the back injury, played the first 2 games, then was out. And every week I'd sit there and ask the coach, update on Austin Brown? We're taking it day by day, week to week. We'll see. Not out for the year yet. Coaches are paranoid. They don't like giving injury info. That's why we haven't actually seen the actual injury mentioned for Jalen Hale. That's why we need injury reports in college football, by the way, especially with the gambling side. But every day it was, we'll see, week to week. They had already applied for a medical red shirt, and they just didn't tell me about it because they didn't want to know. And the AD later was like, I felt bad, but the coach didn't want to say anything. I'm like, that's fine, whatever. So I don't think he's going to play this year. I hope he plays. Would be great. And I think you work as if you try to get ready to play and maybe end up utilizing that medical redshirt option. This is what Jalen Hale, by the way, tweeted out on May 6th. Blessed to see another day. To all my supporters, I'm rehabbing good. One day at a time. Don't count me out. The return will be epic. What God has planned, nothing can stop it. Sometimes you have to go through a storm to achieve greatness. I would anticipate we don't see Jalen Hale this season. Now, maybe we do at the very end of the year, and you still got that 4-game redshirt option to potentially use as well. I was excited to see him play this year. I think the best case mindset here is to treat Jalen Hale as a luxury. If he comes back, great, but you can't assume he's going to be out there after what was a pretty significant injury. So prediction time. Does Jalen Hale play at all in 2024? Y for yes, N for no. Go ahead and get those predictions in for me in the comment section. While you're down there, click the link to prizepicks.com/CLNS. It's daily fantasy made easy. You're picking 2 to 6 player stat projections, more than or less than on those stat projections. Get them all right, or get 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4 right if you do the flex play. You come out on top, and you can make some money nicely. And look, it's pick more, pick less. It really is that easy. They'll also sometimes give you some goodies, some freebies. They're doing that, by the way, with this Caitlin Clark. 0.5 point in her opening game on May 14th. That's a no-brainer. So when I get that freebie, I actually do the power play because I think there's bigger upside at that point, and you're already getting to the freebie there. So Anthony Edwards, more than 28.5 points. We'll see how Game 3 goes, but I've been very impressed by Minnesota. He's going to get it. That's what Denver's like, he's going to get his. That's fine. Jason Tatum has gotten to 10 boards, either 4 out of the last 5 games or 5 games in a row. 4 out of the last 5? That's right. He'll do it again for Boston, I think. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Links in the comments and the description of today's show. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Let's talk recruiting, which we'll spend more and more time on here as the offseason moves along. Max Torres of On3 placed a prediction in for 5-star cornerback Dijon Lee to Alabama. First off, real opportunity for some mustard NIL deals, but that's a future conversation there. He is the Bama's, if we believe the On3 recruiting prediction machine, things going well on that front. 80.5% predict for Alabama there, 7.7 for USC. Of note, 4.7 for Washington, which sometimes I think is like the lingering Kalen DeBoer effect when you see that one in there. Georgia, Oregon, Texas. When it's less than 1%, it kind of feels like, you're just the placeholder type of deal. Lee is a 5-star recruit in the 24/7 Sports Composite, 27th overall, the number 5 cornerback, by the way, in the class, number 1 player from the state of California. It's kind of funny to an extent. You know, DBs would come to Alabama because you probably got to sit a year or two, but you get to learn Nick Saban, the greatest to do it, right? And now you could come to Alabama and almost start, or at least have a chance to, because there's so much uncertainty in that room. So do not miss any football updates for you guys on the Crimson Tide. We have you covered. We will be doing watch parties this year. Very excited for producer Chris to handle that for you guys. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/@RollTideTV. Another prediction from Steve Wiltfong, now over at On3, as they kind of poach everybody from 24/7 Sports. Prediction for 4-star OT Jackson Lloyd to the Crimson Tide. Number 185 overall, the number 18th ranked offensive tackle, and the number 17 player, by the way, from the state of California. We feel better now about the offensive tackle room because Caden Proctor is back. It is still a key priority for the Crimson Tide. By the way, his official visit will come June 14th to the 16th. We'll get to those official visits and a lot of recruiting commits and decommits and predictions and stuff here as we move forward. This is currently what the Alabama recruiting class looks like. Duke Johnson's a 5-star linebacker. Also, 4-star linebacker Jaden Harmon, 4-star linebacker Abdul Sanders, 3-star linebacker Miles Johnson, 3-star linebacker Luke Metz. It's all linebackers. This is very interesting. A couple receivers, Derek Smith. We'll see where Zamir Smith ends up playing, by the way. I will make note, Latsier Brooks is now a 4-star. We kept him in that same spot because he was a 3-star, but he has now been upgraded. So next time we'll adjust those, but I wanted to indicate that that's been a change there. Antonio Coleman, the defensive lineman, and Anthony Rogers, the 4-star running back as well. We'll get to where Bama currently sits in the class rankings momentarily, but where do you think they finish in the first real class? Really, I guess the first class period to an extent, Kalen DeBoer. Sound off for me in the comment section right now. Nothing overly surprising in the top 7. The order, yes, but the teams, no, right? Notre Dame, OSU, LSU, Oklahoma, USC, Clemson, Bama, schools that historically have produced top 10 classes, knowing things can and absolutely will change. Syracuse is 8. Hey, good job. Guess what ain't going to stay that way? They ain't going to finish 8th. Penn State's 9th. Auburn is 10th. So I'm sure the Tigers can be excited about having a top 10 class and still not quite being as good as Alabama.